We've already talked about quite a few mental tools for decision-making and judgment. So, for the final episode in this section, let's talk about how to connect judgment with action. In the real world, you rarely have enough time to do all the research you want. You can't expect your first decision to be perfectly correct, and at the same time, you have to respond quickly. Imagine you're an emergency room doctor. An ambulance brings in a patient covered in blood, barely conscious. The family is screaming beside you. The monitors are going crazy. What do you do? Or imagine the stock market suddenly crashes. Do you sell? A competitor launches a disruptive new product. Do you follow? You don't have time to calculate everything before making a decision, because you never have all the information. But panicking is obviously not the answer either. So how do you respond in a structured way? The mental tool we're going to talk about today is called the OODA loop. It stands for observe, orient, decide, act. You may have heard of the OODA loop before. A lot of people interpret it as simply meaning react faster. But I think the real essence of OODA is something else. Change your mind faster. Put yourself into any situation. Can you quickly figure out what kind of game you're in? What is the other side trying to do? What matters, and what is just noise? Can you quickly build a mental map of the situation? Every time you complete one OODA cycle, you refresh that map. And the person who can refresh their map faster is the person who can stay in control when everything around them is chaotic. It's not that the faster hand always beats the slower hand. It's that the newer mind beats the older mind. The OODA loop was originally developed in the 1970s by John Boyd, a legendary U.S. Air Force fighter pilot who became known as a tactical mentor to an entire generation of military officers. Boyd discovered these ideas while teaching aerial combat. He liked to make a $40 bet with people that, even if he started from a disadvantaged position, he could get behind his opponent and win within 40 seconds. The OODA loop was the tactical secret behind that claim. But Boyd wasn't really thinking only about fighter jets. He was trying to understand something much broader. How do people continuously update their understanding of reality and maintain the initiative in a competitive environment? In simple terms, OODA breaks conflict and competition into 4 repeating steps. First, observe. Where is the opponent? What has changed in the environment? Second, orient. What do these observations actually mean? Third, decide. Given what I currently believe, what should I do next? Fourth, act. Pull the stick. Fire. Turn. Then the whole process starts again. Take a boxing match. A basic OODA loop might look like this. You see your opponent's left shoulder drop slightly. That's observation. Your brain quickly matches that movement with your previous experience and predicts a left hook. That's orientation. You decide to duck underneath the punch and attack the opponent's right ribs. That's decision. Then you bend down and throw the punch. That's action. You might say, well, that sounds pretty simple. Isn't it just look, think, and act? Whoever does it faster wins? Not quite. The key is not simply to make your loop faster than your opponent's. The key is to make your loop more effective. And ideally, you want to disrupt your opponent's loop. Imagine 2 boxers. Boxer A is extremely fast. Boxer B is slower, but he is very good at rewriting his opponent's expectations. During the first few exchanges, Boxer B repeatedly pretends to attack the left side of the body. Eventually, Boxer A starts to form a stable expectation. His attention shifts left. His weight shifts left. And then, suddenly, Boxer B changes rhythm, steps directly into the center, and punches him in the head. Boxer B didn't win because his final punch was faster. He won because he corrupted the orientation stage of Boxer A's OODA loop. He put his opponent's mind on the wrong map. That is why one OODA cycle is never enough. Even if your previous judgment was correct, it may become wrong 1 second later. From the perspective of modern cognitive science, the OODA loop makes perfect sense. We've talked before about predictive processing. The brain is essentially a prediction machine. We don't passively receive information from the world. Instead, we carry an internal model of reality, and use that model to predict what will happen next. When reality doesn't match our prediction, we have to update the model. Isn't that exactly what happens through repeated cycles of observation and orientation? We've also talked about active inference in the free energy principle. Action isn't merely something that happens after perception. Action itself is a way of gathering evidence and reducing prediction errors. You don't always wait until you fully understand the world before acting. You act with a model, and use your actions to sample reality. That is the cycle of decision and action, which then generates new information for the next round of observation and orientation. The deeper meaning of OODA is therefore not make one decision and take one correct action. It is act, learn, update, and correct yourself continuously while the situation is changing. Boyd later developed his OODA theory further. He increasingly treated the decision as more like a hypothesis, and the action as a kind of stress test imposed on reality. So, in a broader sense, OODA means continuously placing small bets under uncertainty. Run an experiment. Collect feedback. Update your map. Let's simplify it. Observe doesn't mean collecting more and more information. It means detecting changes, anomalies, and signals that could actually change your next move. Orient doesn't simply mean finding a direction. It means asking, what kind of situation am I actually in? Decide doesn't mean declaring the truth. It means choosing the hypothesis that is most worth testing right now. And act isn't the conclusion. It is a way of forcing reality to reveal itself. An outsider may think every action taken by an expert is designed to achieve immediate progress. But OODA experts often act simply to poke reality. You throw a punch to see whether your opponent blocks or retreats. You launch a minimum viable product to see how customers respond. You make a small move to find out what the world does next. That sense of poking reality is one of the signatures of an OODA expert. In modern command and control systems, the OODA loop is no longer merely a tactical requirement for an individual pilot or commander. It has become a system-level requirement. The U.S. military often describes this goal as achieving decision advantage. The side that can continuously generate better hypotheses, conduct more aggressive stress tests, and rapidly reshape its understanding of the battlefield gains the strategic advantage. OODA is essentially an organization's ability to turn experience into update speed. In the past, the question was whether an individual could change their mind quickly. Today, the question is whether sensors, data, communications, algorithms, authorization systems, and frontline feedback can all change their minds together. Consider the war in Ukraine. Much of the conflict between Ukrainian and Russian forces revolves around drones. Ukraine has increasingly turned the battlefield into a real-time platform for upgrading drone technology through OODA-style feedback loops. According to reports available as of March 2026, Ukraine has been working on ways to share battlefield data with allies through secure platforms, helping train AI systems for drones. Every jamming event, every failed strike, every deviation from the expected trajectory becomes a prediction error back in the engineering labs. That is observation. AI systems analyze millions of images and update their understanding of Russia's electronic warfare environment. That is orientation. Engineers and commanders then make rapid decisions about technical directions. That is decision. And frontline teams deploy drones with updated software and algorithms, testing them in real combat and sending the feedback directly back to manufacturers. That is action. And then the cycle begins again. In modern warfare, decision speed itself becomes a weapons system. And in the age of AI, the winner may simply be the side with the shortest learning loop. We can use OODA in everyday life too. The key is still orientation. When studying for an exam, don't see a bad score and immediately think, I need to solve 200 more problems. First ask, did I misunderstand the question? Did I misunderstand the concept? Or did I simply lose control of my time allocation? At work, don't see falling numbers and immediately respond with, work overtime. Add more features. Create more reports. Run a small probe first. Is the problem with the product, the process, the story you're telling yourself, or organizational coordination? Many teams don't lack execution. They lack one small action that can force the truth to reveal itself. In a relationship, the most useful OODA response to an argument may not be to fight back immediately. Instead, ask, what does this situation look like from the other person's perspective? Maybe you think you're arguing about facts, but they think you're arguing about the relationship itself. And for personal health, you can run a small OODA loop every week. Observe your sleep, diet, and energy. Orient around the single most important variable. Change only that one thing. Try it for 7 days. Next week, update your map and choose another variable. So, in the end, the OODA loop is not about reacting faster. It's about changing your mind faster. Not about being right forever. It's about correcting yourself in time. Not about finding the final answer. It's about placing small bets first. And not about completing one step. It's about making every step generate intelligence for the next one. Most people simply keep walking with their heads down. Some people occasionally look up at the sky. But a very small number of people are constantly observing, constantly questioning, and constantly rebuilding their maps. They actively probe reality. They look for tiny signals. And they try to see small opportunities before others even realize they exist. Because in a changing world, the real advantage may not belong to the person who has the best map. It may belong to the person who can update their map the fastest. That's it for today's content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.